Oh, all right. It's the video none of you have been waiting for, like all the rest of them. It's the video game video. Hang on, I'm about to go crazy. I am actually. All right. Um, yeah. I think I said in one of my videos I'm going to make one about my feelings of what video games mean to me and where I see them going in the future, and kind of a little bit of history. As usual, it's gonna be nothing but rambling, but I should probably be used to that by now. So, um, I believe that video games are somewhere in the top five of one of the greatest inventions of human history. Um, it's one of the best ways of storytelling I've ever experienced. It might not be as detailed or intimate as books. It might not be as exciting or thrilling as movies or TV. Um, the music and soundtracks, even though they've caught up over the past few decades, but the music might not be as uh, the the soundtracks of the games might not have as much of a budget or as many high profile musicians as more traditional uh, records and CDs. Like I said, that's changed over these past few years, but overall, video games have been able to combine all of those things into a medium that lets all of those different elements shine, where you can just get some amazing stories and experiences and actually be able to choose the narrative of it. You are in a lot of cases the main character in some way, shape, or form, whether it be an RPG or even like a sports game. Uh, this just the amount of freedom that you are given, the amount of immersion that you're allowed to have in a lot of in the unbelievable escapism that you're able to achieve with video games is just something that has really pushed humanity into like a very, very creative space. I know gamers, I do consider myself, I am a gamer, even though I'm not what you would consider like a traditional gamer, because of, I guess, how I carry myself. But I am a gamer. I own, hundreds of games. So I own multiple systems. I've always loved games. Small kid, my first memory of playing the game was I was at a Sears. I'm not even sure those are even still around anymore. I was at a Sears with my family, maybe like 5 or 6 years old, and there was like a little kiosk, like a jewelry kiosk, and there was this Game Boy. It might have been Game Boy Color that had Pokemon on there, and uh, didn't know anything about it. Was very confused. Just saw this little boy walking around with this little thing behind it. Didn't know what it was. I was very intrigued. It definitely got me thinking, but I did not know what it was. But I know I wanted to know more about it. And I think maybe that Christmas or the next Christmas when I got my Game Boy, got that game, and that's pretty much was when I fell in love with video games. It was something that I never thought. Just that escapism was something that was very much needed in my life at that time, especially going with the show, the theme song, and connecting with friends and doing all that, trading and all that. It was a magical time. If you if you were around to experience that, you definitely know what I'm talking about when Pokemon first came out. But that was when I first fell in love with games, and I've been hooked ever since. Uh, Throughout a lot of my adolescence, I would say, maybe 9, 10 to maybe 15, 16, 17 is when I really was like going ham on games because of it was it was a sort of escapism that I kind of really needed because my reality wasn't what I wanted it to be. I wasn't able, or I felt like I wasn't able to be the person that I wanted to be around people. Uh, it was just very, um, I just didn't feel safe being that because I knew I had like two options. Either I could go the option of being overly aggressive and like have my life and freedom taken from me, or I can go the route of just not doing anything. We're not doing anything, but take the route of just kind of going inward and just not really confiding in people, which I definitely gravitated towards that side of it. But what really kept me sane and what really kept me going was video games. Between like my Game Boys and my PlayStations, I was a PlayStation kid. I was at a PS1, 2, 3, 4. Got the 5 now. We had an Xbox. We even had a Wii. We had a whole assortment of games. Even though I never really was able like to buy brand new games all the time. As a kid, I would always have to like sell my games at GameStop to buy new ones, which is another thing I want to make a video about. How we should probably put some more respect on GameStop's name. It's not this terrible entity that people make it out to be, even though it's not, nothing to be praised, but at the same time, it's the giving people the ability to have ownership of your games, and be able to sell them, trade them, uh, build communities through there. Like GameStop was a huge pillar of making video games what they were. Even though what they are now might not be people's cup of tea. Even though I think people should give GameStop another chance now. Their games are actually very reasonable, especially since there aren't that many physical retailers anymore because of them. Overall, I think they're pretty decent. But yeah, that was huge for me. Playing a whole lot of great games. Looking back at it, I actually had some pretty good taste in games from that I didn't know were great at the time. From like Beautiful Joe, God Hand. Those are two games I didn't realize were so good. The Metal Gear games. I remember like playing a lot of like Rainbow Six, Vegas 1 and 2. Those games were great. Obviously COD when that first came out. We're huge. COD 4, played a lot of that. Even Modern Warfare 2. Didn't like World at War, but different tangent. Back. Try to get back on track. My love for video games kind of led me. It's getting extra toasty in here. My love for video games have led me to understand like where that actually came from. What's the origin of why I just gravitated towards them. I don't look like your average typical gamer, especially you see me out and about. So many people are surprised that I like video games as much. I went to my first convention, I think this time last year, maybe a few months before, back in June, and yeah, I definitely stuck out like a sore thumb. I was not your typical gamer there, but it was still one of like the best days of my life, being surrounded by people who have a similar interest as me. Even a few months ago, went to PAX East in Boston. That was definitely different. A lot different from the PAX I remember as a teenager, but it's probably for the best, honestly. Probably for the best. But that led to me on like trying to find out like why I gravitated so much towards video games. And I always like sports. So I've always like was wanted to be more social and go out and experience life. And I even like gave up playing games like in my early 20s, kind of focus on work and making connections, making friends, and traveling and seeing the world, which I'm glad I did. But still gravitated back to video games. Like why do I keep coming back to this? And long story short, I think it's pretty much how my brain is wired because of my autism. I think so much of what autism is, and just goes hand in hand with what video games are. You know, so many people who do have autism, not everyone. The spectrum is pretty wide, but so many people who do have autism are very mechanically inclined. I think Temple Grandin, she wrote that in a few of her books that a lot of great mechanics and even musicians have to be on the spectrum because of you want to be great at the guitar or the violin or the piano. You kind of have to like look one way and then have your hands do something different, and that's pretty much what like a specific spots on the autistic spectrum give you the advantage of doing is having that great hand-eye coordination. Um, it's a gift that we all have. So video games just tend to go hand in hand with that, you know. And because of that, it just makes a whole lot of sense that a lot of people who do make video games, a lot of the developers have to also have autism in some way, shape, or form. I know I read the creators, or at least the main creator of the Pokemon series, the video games, had Asperger's, which is something I believe I do have. I think that's where I'm at on the spectrum. He had Asperger's, and I believe everyone who loves, Gen 1 and 2 of Pokemon, in particular, probably have Asperger's. It just makes sense to me. Birds of a feather flock together, and it's just there's so much of what those two games were, those two generations were, that just speak to autistic people. With the silent protagonist, you just constantly is getting information. You're not really like having conversations with people. You're just getting information. They're just telling you things over and over and over. You're just gathering information, and that's something that speaks to autistic people. Is we just want info, and that's what that game just did for you. They designed their game around how they see the world, which is that way. Especially people with Asperger's, we just want information. Just keep giving information, but also giving information. It's like a back and forth. That's how people with Asperger's kind of communicate with people. It's like, you give information, I give you information, back and forth, back and forth. But that's pretty much like who Red is in the first games, and even Ash is this receiving information, and while gaining and giving information, completing the Pokedex, completing catching all the Pokemon, getting all the badges. It's all about give and take information. And so many video games are like that, where your main character is just gaining more and more info, whether it be about lore, about the world, about yourself, about your backstory. So much of video games is all about like gaining information and giving it back out. And that just speaks to autistic people. That's how our brains are wired. We just want to consume info and then put it back out in our own way. And that's like I said, one of the beauties of video games. It allows you that it allows you to have more control over like a more films, TV shows, music. You don't have that. Even though we do love a good show that does that, good info dump, give you all that good lore, good album, a conceptual album that gives you a whole bunch of information about either the artist or the topic the artist is talking about, that it speaks to us on a different level. That this video games are this perfectly tailor made for that, and that probably is the reason why I just keep gravitating towards it, especially towards video games that just give me the power to just do that back and forth info exchange. Even not even like extends like action games, like Devil May Cry or even like Dark Souls. The information could be like this is getting information about animations and about frames and about iframes and about tech. That's all information, and you want that information. You want to be able to do what you want with that information, and then send that information back to the game and see how the game reacts to that information. And it's like it's all wired together. It's all connected together about information. It's just what type of information are you getting? Are you getting like the social information? Are you getting like the gameplay information about the lore, the information about the characters? What information are you getting? And what is the game allowing you to do with that information? That is just something that just feeds our minds. I think the only way you can create like a super genius in today's mind, in today's world, is by giving them like very, very specifically tailor made games that are just all about info. That's why so many people can just go on and on and on about a video game or a video game series, because that information just means something to them. It touched them in a way that other mediums just can't. That's why I love video games so much. But I'm also understanding and seeing that over the past maybe 15 years, maybe like the teens, 2011, 2012, the culture of video games have definitely shifted, where I feel like what's going on in society has made people feel like what was like pretty much like a boys' club, a place where that escapism was for them to escape what's going on in real life, has been under attack. The biggest event that came from that, well, I think, will probably be Gamergate. That was pretty big, where we just got to this is like pure autism too. We got to a place where we were just kind of getting upset about integrity and games journalism, which I'm not saying isn't something that's important, but I really, just looking back at it, and I know I didn't participate in it. I never really participated in a lot of like online media. I never really picked sides. I just kind of watch and see how it unfolds. But it was something that it was very eye-opening to see how people were just getting very up in arms about how games journalism wasn't being transparent about what was going on. It was always pretty much like it's not who you are. What you do is who you know. That's pretty much how it's always been in the entertainment industry, and the video games is no different. The more money that has been shoveled into video games, the more people are going to want to make that money, continue that going. So the integrity of like the game publications have been psyoptic for a while now, and Gamergate was pretty much like, okay, now we all can see it. It's pretty much transparent. But how it all transpired and how things went down was just not a very good. Who cares if it was a good look or not? What happened with like Anita Sarkeesian and Zoe and the other, I forgot the other person, the other chick. All three of them was just didn't really come across, at least in the gamers in my mind, for the gamers as a victory. Like, all these people have gained so much clout from that, even though mentally it definitely took a huge toll on them. They're still like household names. Like, I feel like I should know who any of those people are. And I think that's kind of what the nuanced gamers miss when they like attack people. They're giving voice to like the formerly voiceless. You know what I'm saying? Like, if Gamergate never would have happened, like, no one would know who Anita Sarkeesian was. Now she was like, he had like a meeting with the Senate, I believe. She was like consulted for like The Last of Us Part 2, and that was all because of Gamergate, you know, or that was like the biggest push she ever had. And I feel like that's what's going on. Also, like Sweet Baby Inc. I think that's who they are. Same exact thing's going to happen. Like, they're getting so much free publicity. There's no such thing as bad publicity. I forgot the guy's name. I know he's like the British showman or whatever he was, the dude who ran the circuses. But he said there's no such thing as bad publicity. I 100% agree with him. You're just giving so much free press to these people, and if they aren't who you say they are, it's all you're going to do is just pretty much the rocks that you're throwing at them. They're just going to catch them and use it to make their driveway. I forgot who told me that, but that's pretty much what they're going to be doing. The bricks you're throwing at them, they're just going to build a house with it or build a wall with it. You're not actually doing what you think you're doing. You're just reacting. You're just you know, they act like facts don't care about the feelings, but all of this seems to be based off their feelings, and that's kind of something I've observed with gamers, where what's going on in their real life and in reality and society is just crumbling around them. You know, I touched base on this a little bit in other videos, where video games are like their only safe haven, and that's being co-opted by people who feel like they don't belong here anymore. So there definitely seems to be a power struggle happening, and I don't feel like I can really get involved the way that I thought I can get involved, mainly because I just don't have a dog in this race, honestly. Neither people are wrong, neither people are right. It's pretty much, you know, let the best side win. You know, that's pretty much how history has always gone. And if I was a betting, I definitely would not be betting on the gamers, because a lot of people who are just reacting to these things, they normally like they're more reactive than like they're being very impulsive. They seem to, once they get cornered, start to attack each other and not like the enemy. So that's the reason why someone like Anita Sarkeesian was able to make a career out of it, because eventually they just started attacking each other and they lost sight of the plot. That's pretty much what's going to happen with the Sweet Baby Inc. You know, they're just going to start attacking each other, and Sweet Baby Inc. is going to continue being Sweet Baby Inc. And that's pretty much what's going to be the end of that. So I truly wish that gamers, fellow gamers, would just get past their resentment from society to where they shouldn't try to expect video games to solve their problems. Like, it's not going to get you a girlfriend. It's not going to pay off your student loans. It's not going to give you a better job or a better place to live. It is here to entertain you and to give you something to look forward to, and to inspire you. That's what video games are for. And yeah, it's not going to save you, though. It's not going to save you at all. You can only do that yourself. It cannot get you out of this depression. You have to get out of your depression yourself. You know, during COVID, I ended up buying Death Stranding. Bought it for the PS4. You know, people all have all these wild ass opinions. Some people love it, some people hate it. You know, it's all over the place. So I'm like, all right, I bought it used. bought that in The Last of Us Part 2 used. Like, all right, I'm gonna make my own opinion on these games, so listen to other people. And I think I got like 3 hours in, and I was just like, I don't get it. It was tranquil. It was cool, but I'm like, I ain't really feeling this Kojima. It wasn't really hitting like the other games were. So I just kind of sold it, went on about my business. But this was when I was still in my resentment as well for what was going on in society and with my life. I wasn't too happy about things, so I was expecting these games to get me out of it, and that game was like the number one uh, example I can remember of me expecting it to just do more than what it was supposed to do, instead of what I do now with all media and all people, is accepting it for what it is. Meeting it where it's at. Like Kojima's like, you need to be here to understand this game. I'm not gonna come over here and like placate to you and kind of jerk you off and be like, oh, I'm gonna make the game for you. Like, no, this is my project, and in order for you to understand it, you kind of have to meet me where I'm at. Here's my rules, here's my criteria. You kind of have to like go through them and make a decision. Like, either you want to accept the terms or not. So once I started going to therapy, once I started to truthfully just accept things for what they were, I went back into Death Stranding, and it just immediately clicked, like what the game was about and what he was trying to do. And even though I haven't finished it yet, I'm like maybe 40% done with it. I am just blown away about how he not only like was well ahead of the game when it comes to trying to get people connected, especially if this happened, the game came out before COVID. Even though these problems of people being N-word and not really connecting has been in the forefront in Japan or just in that part of Asia for a while now. It's kind of spreading all over the globe, but that's been like the whole hikikomori situation and the whole shut-ins and just the whole people just isolating themselves. That's been going on for a while, so it was very cool to see him being tapped in on that and using America as like a way to bridge everyone back together. So that game definitely taught me that I need to get my shit together for myself. I cannot expect games to do that, and that's what I'm seeing from like a lot of gamers, is them just expecting the game to get them out of the depression, which isn't the developers' role. That's not their job. They're not supposed to change your reality. They're supposed to help you through the changes that you're making for yourself. You know what I'm saying? They're supposed to be, what going home after work and like sitting down on the couch and watching TV. It's supposed to be like a way for you to relax and wind down from that, but it's not supposed to replace that. And I think that's what a lot of gamers are expecting, is this to be like, no, I'm supposed to escape reality by playing video games. And I feel like that is as we have kind of overindulged ourselves in that type of thinking, to just expect video games to just be pure escapism. I feel like the vibe now with video games, the best video games that we can have right now are doing the opposite. They're like, no, not only am I not going to have you pretend that what's going on outside isn't happening, I'm bringing it right here in your face. And I'm telling you that you can't run from your problems. You can't duck the smoke, essentially. That's what a lot of the best games are doing, whether it be Death Stranding or Last of Us Part 2. Even my favorite game of all time now is Dragon's Dogma 2, or even the first Dragon's Dogma. A lot of people say those games have no story, or they're terrible stories, but no, they're just very Eastern driven stories where a lot of it is up to your interpretation, and how you find the meaning isn't like right in your face. A lot of the best storytellers from Asia kind of go through that methodology of allowing you the option and the choice to find meaning in their art, versus Western philosophy and art techniques of just being a little bit more like holding your hand about it. So if you're one of those people who thinks that, Dragon's Dogma 1 and 2 was a bad game with a bad story, I definitely implore you to, change your perspective, because the story of those games, especially the second one, I believe it's very impactful. And I'll make a video about it one of these days. I even wrote about it. I think I 2 pages about it, which is, for me, that means it means a lot if I put multiple pages into something. But yeah, like so many people just going out this game and nitpicking it very autistically, saying, enemy variety isn't great, and the story's this, and the frame rate's this, and it's just, I can just tell from a biological lens, this is just nothing but jealousy, because the game is fantastic. It's one of the best games to come out in a very, very long time, especially from this generation of games. And Tsuno should be commended for what he made, because essentially that game is just a celebration of his favorite genres, as well as a celebration of games in general, whether it be Monster Hunter, Devil May Cry, Mega Man, a few other games. I'm blanking on them now, but it was just a huge celebration of things that he loves, all into one game. Like I said, if you just change your perspective and accept the game for what it is, it's right in front of you what the game truly is. But if you wanted to, like I said, pay your taxes, give you a blowjob while build a house for you, then you're going to be a little disappointed. This is probably why so many people just shouldn't be hyped for things anymore, because at the end of the day, you have no control how a sequel to a game is going to come out. So you should just be grateful that you have the one, and if the other one doesn't meet your expectations, you still have the one. Same thing like Kojima, Metal Gear. Instead of crying that we don't have any more Metal Gear games, there's 5 main ones, and I think there's 8 all in total. We have so many of them to choose from, and if you just accept them for what they are, you'll have a great time with them. Instead of this being like, I want more and more and more and more and more, you just forget that you have so many there to begin with. Like I said, that's part of autism, where we just kind of miss that nuance of it, of what exactly we should be prioritizing for our own mental sanity. But just getting back to gamers, it's just very interesting to see the mental space a lot of gamers, not a lot, I think most gamers are pretty sane, but the vocal ones online, it's very telling to see, a lot of people just aren't okay. I guess a current example of this is the whole Assassin's Creed Shadows controversy going on right now, which is, as a black man, especially as an attractive black man, which matters. It does matter, the fact that I'm attractive. I know people don't want to admit that, but it does. Just seeing how much smoke this game is getting because of Yasuke is amusing, eye-opening, hilarious, and unsurprising, all in one. Because man, it is just Yasuke has been depicted as a samurai in so much media, whether it be he had his own anime on Netflix. He was in Samurai Warriors 5, a game I just bought because of the controversy. He was in Neo 1 and 2 as a samurai, 2 games I just bought because of the controversy. He might have been in a few other games, but he is always, the vast majority of time, have been depicted as a samurai. But since all these people who are all of a sudden want to have games be realistic depictions of history, especially Assassin's Creed games. Those games have always been great for depicting history accurately. I remember, in the second game where you're throwing hands with the Pope. I remember reading that in my history class in the fourth grade. So I'm glad they added that in there. But it's just like them just being so autistic about it, being like, well, technically, actually, literally, and this is like, once again, this whole Ben Shapiro facts don't care about your feelings is just pure autism, just pure autism. You're missing so much nuance. You need the feelings to make sure that you're not over analyzing the facts. You know what I'm saying? But it's just like I said, people will get there when they get there. If they won't, they won't. But the whole, Yasuke thing is just very eye-opening. I even am planning on buying the collector's edition of this game just out of spite. Even though I'm not a very spiteful person, I'm just gonna buy it because I honestly really like Yasuke. I think he's a really cool character. The more information I'm learning about him, but it's just like this is another one. And there was a video, someone made a video about it where they talked about how like, there's no such thing as bad publicity. Like this is going to be one of the best-selling games this year, especially with it coming out in November in Black Friday, in the Christmas time. It's just it's they're cutting their nose to spite their face with this whole game where it looks pretty good for an Assassin's Creed game, especially one of the newer ones. They haven't really been hitting the same as the older ones. But like they're I don't even know the name of the like Japanese chick who's also a main character because according to these dudes, and most of them are dudes, she doesn't even exist. This game is about Yasuke and how he's going to just run rampant in Japan, causing all this chaos and mayhem. When you can play as a Japanese person in this game, but it's a Japanese woman, so it's a little, it's not the same. It's not the same. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's just like if this is the road y'all want to go, I really can't stop y'all. Who am I to tell you which hills you want to die on? If I don't want you doing that for me, it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. So it's just very eye opening to see like this is kind of a group of this is kind of where what society has caused gamers to really care about. One black samurai in a Assassin's Creed game is like taking so much headway, and all the grifters are just making bank off of it too. It's like I said, hey, get it how you live. I do not care, but it just makes me very proud to be a black man and to see this. What a time to be alive to tell my grandkids one day about this legendary controversy about this probably going to be mid Assassin's Creed game. I'm going to play it. I'm going to play the hell out of it. But it's probably not going to be some revolutionary game. But it's going to sell gangbusters, same as Assassin's Creed 3 did, because people just feel a certain type of way when they're not being catered to, especially gamers. So yeah, it is very, very like I'm still processing how I feel about the current space of gaming as a gamer, and seeing my fellow gamers just mentally lose their minds because of what's going on in the real world and how they're not allowed to run away from it anymore. How I took it. I took it a little bit harshly as well, but like I said, once I kind of got my head out of my ass and like realized I wasn't a victim and kind of understood things from a social and a biological understanding lens, things just made so much more sense to me, where I can now find so much more appreciation in games and what they are, and how people put so much of their effort into them. You know, even like a game like Saints Row, the newer one, I haven't played it yet. I bought it real cheap because people just dogged it. I really doubt that game is as bad as people say it is. I truly, truly do. I just think people are just in the resentment right now. Just like anything that isn't what they're used to is just garbage. It's just trash. It's either terrible or it's amazing. There's no nuance anymore. It's being lost. That's why you have so many people making videos like, is X game as bad as I remember? Is X game as good as I remember? Because people are just getting so much more nuance. We're all growing up. A lot of the gamers, you know. Most of us are like millennials or Gen X, and we're all growing up. We're all kind of getting that nuance from living life and understanding that, oh, things weren't that bad. You know, this generation wasn't this bad. This, you know, like the seventh, I believe, generation, the Xbox 360, PS3 generation. You know, at the time, people thought that it was mid. It wasn't that great. You know, the generation afterwards was so great. But now we're looking back at it, man. That generation was amazing. It sets so many positive trends. You know, people have so much smoke for DLC, but at the beginning it was great. You know, we had DLC, we had patches. You know, games actually could be finished. People forgot. You know, they keep cherry picking all the best games from the previous generations before then. They forget the terrible games that were just completely unfinished and were never going to be finished. There's so many. There's hundreds of them in the PS2 era, PS1 era, SNES era. There were so many just god awful games that were never going to be good. They were all just cash grabs. But at least games now have a potential to be good at no further cost to us. You know, if they patch it, it's on them. It's not on us. We don't pay a fee for these patches. They have to pay for it, and that gives us so much more power over games. Because now we can just wait. We don't have to pay buy games on release, and because of the fear of them not restocking it or whatever. You know, we don't have to accept games for what they are. We can just kind of wait for them to be finished. And people want to take it from the glass half empty approach. All these games are trash. These games are this, that, and third. So that games have full approach, or the glass half full approach. Like, oh, okay, clearly this game had a vision, but the shareholders and the company and the higher ups rushed it. They didn't get a chance to finish it. So this game that got made in 3 years probably won't be finished until 6 years. So I can probably wait a year, get it on sale for like $25, play it for a little bit, wait for more patches to come out, and then I can enjoy it. The perfect game is the original Dragon's Dogma. What that game was at the release and what the game was, what it was at the end, was two very different games. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people, when they can compare Dragon's Dogma 2 to the first game, they're comparing a finished product to a brand new product. With a new engine, new people, new ideas, COVID, so new different perspective on life. You know, you're not comparing apples to apples from the first one to the second one. You're not accepting it for what it is. You're just being like, they had 12 years to make this. Like, they didn't have 12 years to make it. He made a whole ass game in between that. DMC5, he had other things going on. The other developers had other things going on. Plus, they had a brand new engine that they had to learn on, the RE engine, versus, I'm not sure what the engine they used on the first game, but that was like the tail end of that engine. So they had so much experience on that one, versus they didn't have as many experience on this one. That's why it's not as, you know, it doesn't seem as polished, but for what it is, it's an amazing feat. I can't wait for the next installment. That game's going to be absolutely amazing. I love these Dogma games, but yeah, it kind of goes back to another video I made where there's so much nuance being missed because of people just using their autism for evil and not good. You know, believing those labels. Hopefully you understand what I mean by that, where they're just missing so much nuance of what these things are. You know, video games are a blessing to have and to play and to experience. The fact that we've all done that for the majority of our lives, or had the opportunity to, and just make so many great memories that so many very talented people spent so much of their lives doing. Uh, you know, it's just it's something that I want to do. I am going to make games myself. I want to pay homage to these great people who dedicated so much time of their life, in front of a computer screen or art book or a music studio to make these great experiences for us. And we're just missing that. We're taking it. A lot of us are taking it for granted that this is going to last forever. You know what I'm saying? Now we deserve video games, and we deserve this great medium. Unfortunately, there's a good chance that this medium might not be around by the time we all pass. Millennials, Gen X, even Gen Z, might not be here anymore. Might or it might mutate into something completely unrecognizable, which it kind of already is. But like I said, it's not. We can't just take ownership of what games are and expect it to be catered to us forever. Pokemon is the perfect example of this, where the first two generations it was pretty much about collecting Pokemon, catching them all, trading with your friends. That was pretty much it. When the third generation on, it changed because the philosophy of the Pokemon company, Nintendo, and I'm blanking on the developer's name, but you guys know it. It changed where all of a sudden the games were feeding the movies, which was feeding the show, which was feeding the merchandise, which was feeding the trading cards. Like all of them were interconnected to where now the games just are like this separate entity. Now it's all connected with everything else. So you can't release a game if there's not gonna be any merchandise or a movie connected to it, trading cards, plushies, all of that. It's all connected. So the philosophy of the games have changed, and the people who make the games have changed. So, and that was part of the resentment. People being like, "Oh, they don't make them like they used to. The first two generations were great. I never really liked the third generation. Even now, I still don't prefer it. But because of I pretty much abandoned it in middle school once Emerald came out, I missed the fourth generation, which was, in my opinion, the best generation. It was my favorite. The best is the first two. I'm not going to argue with you with it. Don't at me. But I missed the fourth generation. I missed Platinum when it came out. I missed Heart Gold and Soul Silver, even though still not a huge fan of the Johto remakes because they didn't fix the main issue with those games, which is like the Pokemon placement. And them not actually using that many Johto Pokemon, and like the leveling is the game overall it still has a lot of its flaws, but it's still like a great game overall. The fifth generation is fantastic with Black and White and Black and White 2. The sixth generation X and Y, and I believe the Ultra Moon and Sun. X and Y I believe is mediocre, but Sun and Moon were great. And Sword and Shield was very, very good. I'm actually replaying Sword now. I'm actually playing Sword for the first time I play Shield. They're actually very good Pokemon games. They just don't cater to us anymore. They just cater to the newer generations, which makes sense. It makes sense for them to do that. It doesn't make sense for them to constantly cater to us and say fuck you to everybody else. That's seems like a very good way to get out of business by just catering to certain people. You know what I'm saying? We all only thing we have over like the newer generation is that we were born before them. You know what I'm saying? Like we don't own ownership of Pokemon. Like from an autistic point, we could be like, oh well, we created what Pokemon is. Yeah, but we were born. That's the only reason why. Like, if we were switched with Gen Z, they can say the same exact thing. So it's like no, it's their games, it's their franchise, and we gonna have to just make the most of it, or just go play a different series. Just not missing that nuance of them constantly throwing bones to us Gen 1ers over and over again. With Pokemon Let's Go and Pikachu and Eevee, some of the best Pokemon games available. They cut out all the rough edges of yellow, not all of them, but a lot of them, of yellow, green, blue, and red. I wish they would do that for the second generation as well. And just make games more enjoyable. I remember in the Diamond and Pearl remake, so many people were just bitching and moaning about those games, and it's like especially like how easy it is when Pokemon has never been hard. I beat those games as a child, as a 6-year old. And the games for 10-year-olds, and I beat it. They're not hard games at all. Um, they're just an uh, advanced game of rock paper scissors. That's all it is. It's not that deep, but it's still fun. It's still engaging. And the fact that they had like systems where like a Pokemon can like hang on after like a critical hit that could have killed them, or they get more criticals, or just this more and more interaction that makes you from a different perspective see like the bond you're making with your Pokemon. That's what it was there for. It wasn't to make the game easier. It was to show you, the player, that they actually are. They know that you care about these Pokemon, and they're making this gauge that is hidden to you that shows you, hey, your Pokemon got this crit because it loves you. Your Pokemon didn't die here because it loves you. It cares about you. That's the way I look at it, and that's why I love that feature. And I love those games. Uh, Even though I wish they would have made Platinum, but that's not what they made. They made Diamond and Pearl. And Platinum was actually Arceus anyway. That was Pokemon Platinum. But yeah, it's no, no, I've been rambling for a while now. But yeah, what's going on with gamers and the gaming community right now is something that was always going to have to happen. Um, it's a reflection of what's going on in society. You know, same thing's happening with other media, with music and movie franchises. People are just stuck in their resentment because they're just mad about what's going on in reality, that they don't want their media um, reflecting reality, which is like completely autistic, because that's all that art does, is reflect reality. It's all it does. It's going to continue doing it because that's, as humans, that's all we know how to do, is live in reality. We try to run from it, but at the end of the day, we cannot run from ourselves. And art is going to imitate reality. And if we want to get back to making that really cool escapism, we gotta clean up our mess we got out here, you know. And that's I'm going to do the best I can with the game that I'm going to make. It's going to be a very depressing game about a very depressing city, and yeah, it's going to be very much. It's not going to be a whole lot of escapism in my game. It's going to be pretty much telling you like this is how things are. What are you going to do about it? And I'm going to give you that autonomy to make choices about what's going on around you and really face yourself. Essentially, face yourself, face your demons, your shadows, your dogmas, your just pretty much everything that's going on right now. Pretty much want to put it in the game and have, and don't be like hyper vague about it. I'll make a video about it eventually, but just make people face their fears, because I think gamers, all of us, we are extremely intelligent. We definitely are some of the brightest people on the planet, and we do actually care about what's going on. That's why I'm not too mad about the people who are, doing what they're doing and saying what they're saying about Assassin's Creed Shadows. I take all that as a compliment. They care very much, very, very much about us to make this a controversy. You know what I'm saying? This didn't happen with Neo. They didn't care about Neo, which is sad. I think they should care about that just as much as they care about us, but they don't really care about. No one cares about themselves more than they care about us. That's a beautiful thing about being black in today's world. Is we are just the most cared for people in the world. if you really look at it from a optimistic point of view. You know what I'm saying? People just care so much about us. How they show it might not always be the kindest, but it still is care. And I appreciate that. Yasuke does too. He appreciates the love. Because love and hate is on the same spectrum. This is not hate, it's all love. The same thing with the gamers. This is all love. It's manifesting in very, very toxic ways right now. And I really want to get to a point to where we can remember like what games are, get that nuance, get back to loving games. You know, I looked at my PS3 collection and my PS2 collection from my childhood, and I just realized that like the vast majority of the games that were in there were like very violent, very, very violent. You know, I had to come to terms how I'm like a very violent person, a very aggressive person who was struggling with that because I don't like hurting people. So it's like a very weird contrast where like I am very aggressive, very violent, but I don't want to uh, project that violence onto other people or other things. It doesn't make me feel good. So video games was my outlet, and it was probably for the best. Honestly, it's probably for the best. But I definitely realized like I was a very violent person. But even when I played games like Grand Theft Auto, I wouldn't, go around like running over random people or like beating up hookers or prostitutes or anything like that. I would do it every once in a while because I got curious, but that was never really the goal. It was always a story, especially after San Andreas and Vice City, San Andreas, and 4. I love 4. 4 is one of the greatest games of all time. That story, even though I didn't really, it didn't hit me consciously until much later. Unconsciously, I just knew like that story was just so rich with great characters, a great setting, a great vibe. It was very much that Russian kind of like Russian soap opera, Russian mafia vibe. It was going and nailed it, absolutely nailed it. And I do want to make a video about Take Two and Rockstar and how it's changed, and probably not for the better, but that's a different video. But trying to wrap this one up a little bit. It's probably gonna be a few more videos about video games and how I just have a little bit of a different take on how much I love and care about them as a medium, and as it is this caused gamers to really care about it. What I'm saying? It's a beautiful thing that so many people are just willing to be like, no, this is wrong. Yasuke isn't a samurai. Like, man, you guys really do care, and it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. I mean that a lot, because video games have just changed our lives for the better, and we all of this is just at the end of the day for the betterment of it. The road to hell is always paved with good intentions, but I do believe people do have good intentions with this, even though I don't agree with it. So many people don't agree with it. I do see the nuance in this. What I'm saying? I'm not going to be like, oh, these racist ass gamers. This isn't what this is. This is not about racism. This is about love. This is about people being hurt, people being confused, and people wanting answers about what's going on in the reality. I'm playing a game. What game am I playing? Mafia 3, and the main character in that game is black. And there was no huge controversy about that. There was some, obviously. Even when San Andreas came out, people were bitching and moaning, but not to this extent, because it might have been like 2013 that game came out. I can't remember. Yeah, it was a different time back then. It wasn't woke to have a black protagonist back then, so you were allowed to still. In today's day, you cannot at all, because how society is for non-black people. How they are enemy number one, and they're constantly getting shit on, especially white men, for like some sins of the father type shit. These dudes probably didn't even do anything in their entire lives, and so many people hate them, even their own people. So I definitely get it. I definitely see the nuance in this. That's why I would never like attack gamers overall. I'll criticize. I'll definitely be blunt about it too. But overall, I know what this is. This is a giant cry for help. This is something for their survival. because they are under attack for valid and invalid reasons, and we're just gonna have to all get past it. But yeah, there's going to be a huge shift in the video game space, and I think if you're looking for which way you should go, my opinion is to don't run from yourself, don't run from the smoke. If someone's coming at you, accept it. You know what I'm saying? If someone's judging you, if someone's giving you shit, if someone's just really being like, fuck you guys. Be like, oh, what do you mean by that? Elaborate on that. Give me more information instead of just getting super defensive and getting in your feelings and disguising it as facts. Because it's not what it's really about. It's not really about facts. It's about feelings. All that is about feelings, which is I'm glad a lot of men in general need to get in their feelings and be open about it. Don't disguise it as, oh, I'm just being factual. No, you're just being feeling. You're just being feeling. No, no. But yeah, it's just trying to bring the nuance into it, to the discussion. There are no good guys, there are no bad guys. You know what I'm saying? We're all just people, just trying to figure it out the best we know how, and trying to also like shine light in this beautiful medium we call video games that are just a safe haven for the autistic kind, the neurodivergent kind. Just giving us a perfect outlet to express ourselves. It's beautiful. I absolutely love it. Like I said, I want to be more involved in it, even though I do think people should go outside more. Definitely. I know that I'm going to be part of the problem why people don't go outside as much, but I want to make sure, like in my games, that I do bring light into autism and neurodivergency. I want to make people know why they are gravitating towards these games the same way that I do, and without also shaming people or making them feel bad about themselves, but also being like, hey, we gotta go back outside. I know things aren't great. Dating's not what we thought it was going to be. Society this isn't all that great. We can't duck the smoke. We can't run from it. We can't just constantly just be trying to get over other people and just be like, it's all about me. We need each other. It's one of the main staples of Death Stranding. So we need each other. It's very true. No matter where you fall in the spectrum of attractiveness or where your social standing is, we need each other. And so many games illustrate that. I want to make a list of great games to have people connect and empathize with each other and get people to love games again. Truly love games. Like, games are not boring now. Games are not mid. Games are not terrible now. We are living in a renaissance of great games, especially with the new, digital era. I understand so many people are so scared about not owning things anymore, but I feel like video games should be like the last thing you want to own. Because let's keep it a buck. How many games are you going to be playing 10 years from now? Why does it need to be taking up so much inventory in your life? You know what I'm saying? We just had a pretty bad tornado storm here, I think last week. A few people lost their houses, or trees fell on their houses, and they might have lost a lot of their things. And just imagine if that would have came down to your house and your apartment and just took out all your games, your physical version of games. Like, is that really going to be the end of the world? Like, how many of those games did you actually plan on playing again? Or how many of them you just want to be like, I own this. This is mine. This is my possession. You gotta kind of let that shit go. And we're living in a beautiful time where you can just play a game that came out 10 years ago for like $5. You know what I'm saying? Just download it off of whatever store you're using, whatever console you're using. Just download it. You know what I'm saying? It's that simple. Play it once. Be like, yeah, that was cool. I might play it again, and then be done with it, like you do with all your other games. You don't have to own these games. These companies don't have to make these games so cheap You know, you don't have to just look at it from this glass half empty perspective. Oh, they're just trying to make everything digital. They're trying to get rid of physical media. Like, yeah, but they're not. I truly don't believe they're doing it for malicious reasons. I think they're doing it because it's very convenient to be able to just play games without a physical disc. You know what I'm saying? They would not have made these discless consoles if there wasn't a market for them. You know what I'm saying? So many people now just don't want to own all these. You know, I don't want to own a whole bunch of these books that I have. At the same time, I understand the novelty of having like a physical book. Like I understand the novelty of having physical games. I still want to have physical games, but I just know the vast majority of the games that I have physically, I'm probably never going to fully play them again. You know what I'm saying? I'm glad that I have them. I'm glad that I can pop them in. You know, especially once I start telling more people that I play games and start like having more people play games with me. I mainly play them by myself, and I want to kind of stop that and enjoy them with other people. It's going to be cool to have a physical version of them. You know what I'm saying? But eventually, you know, the disk drives want to get corrupted. The disk might get cracked. This, that, and the third. And just like, is it really worth hanging on to these physical games when I can just buy them digitally? You know what I'm saying? And they're cheap. They're very, very cheap. You can get 10 games for under $100. You know what I'm saying? Great games that came out years and years ago that you never had time to play, that you're never going to play. Our backlog is going to keep getting more and more and more and more games so that we're never going to finish them. So why do you have so many physical games? You know what I'm saying? I would love to talk to a lot of these game collectors and be like, how many of these games have you finished? How many games have you played? How many of these games have you actually played more than once? You know what I'm saying? Like, is it really worth having all of this stuff take up so much space in your home, in your life? If you got to pick up and move, you know what I'm saying? Is it really worth spending all this extra money moving all this shit? You know what I'm saying? Where I don't even keep the cases anymore. I just get a sleeve, a little binder set from my games because I just don't want. I feel so stupid carrying cases, even though I do miss the whole, you know, PS1, PS2, especially GameCube cases where you can like go through the manual and read a whole bunch of cool stuff about it. It was cool to have that stuff at the end of the day. It is more stuff. They were just creating us to become hoarders, which is another thing that's part of the spectrum. We like to hoard shit and collect things. But that's something I feel like gamers just gonna have to let go of physically owning their games. Um, it's I understand, you know, the other side of it. Like, you do want ownership of your things. You don't want them to take things from us, because there are examples of them doing that. But for the vast majority of games, they've never done that. You know, 95% of games, they've never done that. A lot of the games that they did take away were probably for like licensing reasons, things out of their control. They probably didn't want to take them away from us. They kind of had no other option. So yeah, like I said, that nuance is being missed. You know, I understand. I'm a physical game collector myself, to an extent, but I had to let go of a few of those games because I wasn't even using them. I wasn't even playing them. I'm like, why am I hanging on to these games when I know someone else could be playing them right now? You know what I'm saying? Here, you can have it. Pay it forward. Don't pay it back. I don't need it anymore. And I'm glad that I did that because it is so relieving not to just have so much stuff that I don't need. You know what I'm saying? Like, the vast majority of those games, the vast majority of the movies, the music, the albums, you're just not going to be listening to them that often, especially if you're on the spectrum. You have a very specific palette, so you should collect games that hit that very specific palette. And all the other ones, can consider buying them at a later date, at a cheaper date, digitally. Play them a couple of times, be like, yeah, that was cool. I don't really want to keep this lodged in my mind so much. I'm gonna get rid of it. You know what I'm saying? A game like Bioshock, I bought that real cheap on Steam. I even bought it like super cheap on PS3. I don't even want the PS3 version of it anymore, physical version of it anymore. I'm never gonna play it again. You know what I'm saying? I know what it is. I understand it. I'm pretty much over it. You know what I'm saying? It's a great game. There's no need for me to own it physically anymore. You know, if someone stole that and I go into my binder, it's not there anymore, I'm not going to shed any tears. You know, I don't care too much about Bioshocks. I know someone does, but I don't. Versus like something like Dragon's Dogma, that wasn't in there, I'll be a little upset. But even then, like I said, it's just a game. I've already experienced it. You know, I've done I think like 5 cycles in that game already. Um, yeah, that's something I think like the nuance is missing from that as well, where we are just living in a renaissance of cheap, great games that have come out in the last 10 to 20 years that are just ridiculously cheap every single week in all these stores, these storefronts, and we just are just missing it because we're just stuck in our resentment. But we will get out of it. We will get out of it. It's always darkest before the dawn. It's getting real dark out here, but we will make it. We will make it. Just understand you can't duck the smoke in real life. You know what I'm saying? You cannot do that. You are literally changing your palette of how you enjoy games by just being like, this has to be the best thing ever because I'm so depressed right now. It's not going to save you. It will not save you. It never has saved you. That's why games were so great as children, because we weren't these hyper depressed adults looking for escapism. We were just trying to have fun. That was all we were trying to do, is have some fun. And that's why we love games from our childhood. That's why so many games from our childhood don't hit the same, because of our depression, of what's going on in our lives. It's very eye-opening, but once we kind of understand that we have to save ourselves and get past this and look at the nuance that's going on in the world, then we will be able to enjoy games again, you know. Then we'll be like, oh, I missed this part in the first time I played this game. I didn't remember this part when I played this game, because I was just kind of playing games in my teens like on autopilot, essentially. I wasn't fully engaged in what was actually being said, what was actually going on. I just wanted to feel something. And I feel like a lot of gamers are still there, even in their 20s, 30s, 40s, and beyond. You're robbing yourself of something that is beautiful, a beautiful art form. And I really want you to reconsider it. You know what I'm saying? Give different games another shot. You know, Death Stranding, Last of Us Part 2. Two amazing games that I feel like if you just change your perspective, you can really see what those developers and directors were going for. You know what I'm saying? Like, The Last of Us Part 2 was supposed to be a very depressing game. How you felt, the rage, the anger you felt was supposed to happen. You know what I'm saying? That dude just played you. He put a Kojima on you. You know what I'm saying? He did a Metal Gear Solid 2 on you, and you fell for it. It's beautiful. So shout out to Naughty Dog and Neil and all those guys. They made a legendary ass game. But it's a bunch of games like that. Like I said, even the newer Saints Row, it cannot be that bad. It really can't. It truly can't. If you stop comparing it to the older ones and accept it for what it is and how cheap it is, I think it's less than $20 now everywhere. I think I might have bought it. I think I bought it physically, like $10. You know what I'm saying? It's a $10 game. Came out like 2 years ago, I think. It's fine. it's fine. It's not that bad. I know it got DLC and all that good stuff on it. You'll be fine. It's not that bad. Neither was I think that Marvel game, the Avengers game, wasn't that bad. No, it wasn't the worst game ever. They fixed it. They polished it up. And they made it playable. So yeah, I just feel like we gotta get past all this resentment, anger, and start accepting things for what they are. Stop ducking the smoke. Stop being assholes to each other. Start loving each other more with less hate. And yeah, get past this, because trust me, once we get past this, we are going to be in like an amazing renaissance in art in general, with music, movies, TV shows, and video games. But we have to stop running to this escapism. We have to face what's going on right now. Once we get past it, then we can get right back into like the fantasy. You know what I'm saying? Then the next Star Wars will be made. But we gotta get past this. You know what I'm saying? The next Elder Scrolls will be made. You know what I'm saying? Like the next great TV show hit will be made. But we gotta stop ducking the smoke and running away from our problems, because that's what's causing a lot of these issues. That's why people care so much about goddamn Yasuke. He doesn't matter this much. He really doesn't. As a black man, he does not matter this much. He never has. He shouldn't. He should not matter this much. But so many people are just so mad and angry. They're just making this man into a legend. In the making. None of us know who this dude is. None of us. We do. I wouldn't even know about Assassin's Creed Shadows if it wasn't for these people giving them free publicity. Like I said, you're cutting your nose to spite your face. And yeah, it's not working the way you think it is. You know what I'm saying? I should not even be knowing what this game is. I should be buying this game 2-3 years down the line because it's on sale, like I did with all the other ones, like Mirage and Valhalla and Origins. I don't know anything about those games. There was no controversy between them, but now this game hasn't even came out yet. I know so much about it because of the hate, love you guys are sending towards it. So it's just really, really invest time into getting past your resentment. There's a lot of free resources on YouTube about, you know, therapy, shadow work, and just like accepting things for what they are. Like your life still might be, you know, in shambles or whatever, however you think, but there's more nuance to it. There's way more nuance to it. You don't have to stay where you're at. That is definitely not something that you have to stay at. You don't need to stay where you're at in your resentment. You don't have to be an 8 out of 10 to love life. You know what I'm saying? Life is there for you to love, no matter who you are. And video games are a beautiful outlet for that. But you just gotta get out of your head. You gotta do it. Once you do it, I swear to God, it would just, like I said, I got out of video games in my 20s to live life, which was a great thing, and it caused me to, you know, do the work for myself to get past my resentment, and that's what brought me back into loving video games. Where I love video games so much now, because I didn't duck the smoke. I'm not trying to escape anymore. I want the real shit right now, and that's what I'm getting, which makes the escapism, the fantasy, way better now that I'm accepting reality. But once you're running from reality, then fantasy is like, it doesn't even hit the same. And that's why so many people are saying video games aren't hitting the same way they are, because they're just stuck in their depression, they're stuck in their resentment. You know, depression is a beautiful thing, but you cannot be stuck there. You gotta get out of it. You gotta be like, all right, I'm done resting. I'm done deep resting. I want to do something. Now's your time. Use these video games to inspire you. Get outside and do great things. Like I said, you don't have to be some super mega attractive person to make a name for yourself and to do some great things locally or globally. You don't. There's so many people who have proven that to be a fact. Not like gonna gaslight you, say it's gonna be easy, if anybody can do it. No, we all know that's not true, but you can still live a very fulfilled life if you just get out of your resentment. That is available to every single person, even people with Down syndrome live great lives, very, very happy, because they got out of their resentment. They're like, you know what, life is great, life is good, and it is. It absolutely is. So yeah, food for thought. Thanks for showing up to my TED Talk. I know it was all over the place, but just some of my random thoughts about video games and gamers and mental health and all that, and autism. Shout out to autism. You know, really start using it for your benefit. Get that nuance in there. You know what I'm saying? Don't forget that. You know, we all love us some Shapiro to an extent, but you gotta care about the feelings. You gotta care about the feelings. Yeah, facts don't care about your feelings, but feelings do not care about your facts either. You gotta have both. So yeah, y'all take it easy.